Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and lovers. Let's start this off with a little bit of news. Depending on how the internet's running, let's see what happens here.
This May, Denver voted camping ban. It's called Initiative 300.
A lot of the reporting so far is focused on its potential. But now, owners all over the city are asking what could happen in their neighborhoods if the ban is lifted. CBS 4's Karen Moore put on our top story tonight initiative because of its
Good morning.
reach.
Jim, any public space would fall under this initiative. So, of course, that does mean areas around 16th Street Mall, areas around the ballparks, but it also means open spaces, trails, and any park here in Denver.
Good morning, everybody.
Homeless population.
I'm not going to play the entire video because we've got some other things to cover this morning. But what I do want to do is focus on a couple of things that's going on here today. And the first one of those is this email that I'm going to read to all of you. And it says, "Good morning, Commander Sanchez. This email is to inform you, sir, that as a citizen of the United States of America, residing as a taxpayer in the city of Denver, County of Denver, Colorado, my constitutional rights were violated Sunday, March 17th, 16th Street Mall, across from the Corner Bakery. Allow me to back up to the Sunday of March 10th, 2019, when two of your officers approached us as we were feeding our homeless. Both officers approached us, Both officers approached us who were feeding in a polite, respectful manner as to us having a permit. Brian Loma had a discussion with the officers in a calm, professional manner. I want to draw attention to the professional manner and how all of this was handled. You may view this on YouTube, Cut the Plastic, Brian Loma, or on Liberty Freak. Now, if you may go to 303 Cop Block on March 17th, 2019, whereby you will view two officers in an aggressive manner approached our table, demanding that we take the tables or else. He was going to throw the food on the ground, and we were all facing arrest. Sir, let's be clear here. Had we responded in an emotional state as the officers wanted, it would have been ugly with injuries possible. So a guy named Shane stepped up to take the plate and took the ticket. All of this was filmed by at least 15 people, along with Channel 4 and Channel 7 and 303 auditors. That's 303 Cop Block for those of you who know I'm on YouTube. So your officers time and again have demonstrated poor impulse control and authoritarian practices, escalating situations. As is our constitutional right to have a peaceful protest and feed the homeless. As is noted on Channel 4 and Channel 7, we have come to a mutual agreement with Corner Bakery that they don't support the urban camping ban, so it was a day of celebration. In all due respect, please Google Fort Lauderdale, September 2018. Feeding our homeless is a religious freedom. So your officers are in direct violation of this right. Okay, I'm just surmising a couple of these things here, folks. Good morning. Oh, of course, my kids are going to act up today. So, here's what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. I want to just give you a quick face shot here while we change some things. In a responding to these things, I want to show you that I had a meeting with the chief of police in the city of Denver on Wednesday, June 30th at 1 to 1:30 in the afternoon. Some of you may know that one of our activist community members, PJ DeMarco, was also there with me. And at that meeting, I expressed some specific concerns regarding the way protests were being handled on the 16th Street Mall. I want to be clear about this because we were talking about protests on the 16th Street Mall. The reason that we want to talk about protesting is because, as you can see here, Commander Sanchez has responded. Hello, Anna. I believe we met on the mall a couple of weeks ago. I am aware of the contact on Sunday, but not of any violations by our officers. Can you please be specific as to which of your constitutional rights were violated and what were the specific issues? I want to say that real quick, guys. What were the specific issues so that we can cover them? This is in the United States Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. This is the case number 16-16808. And by the way, we are here with Janet Madsen. And Janet, I'm keeping you off camera while we're focusing on these things. But I want to ask you to introduce yourself over this audio here. You are a member of a horizontal organization.
Yes.
What is that organization's name?
Occupy Denver.
And Occupy Denver has a subgroup.
Yes.
That subgroup is called?
Boycott the Urban Camping.
Boycott the Urban Camping Ban. You've been involved with the protests with Occupy Denver pretty much since they began.
Yes.
And Janet, you came to those protests because you were familiar with familial situations where poor people in rich communities were being unfairly burdened with the costs of meeting the expenses for some basic needs in the community, like busing children to school. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
So you joined this protest organization, this community organization, back in 2010, 11, roughly?
Yeah.
2011. And in response to the protesters, in part, in response to growing issues in the city where people were being displaced from their living spaces. They were being forced out due to higher rates and property taxes, where seniors and low-income people couldn't afford to pay the government to live on the land that they owned.
That's right.
Right? And so what's happening is that people are being displaced. And in this displacement, folks, what's happening is that the people have no places to go. In the city of Denver, as mayoral candidates will tell you, as homeless candidates will tell you, there's no place for them because the city is not providing development in an educated and informed manner that provides space for all. And, oh, did you see that little bit of spittle that just came out of my mouth? I want to focus on that later. But somebody, moderators, tag this and send me an email. We need that as evidence. So my shirt says Homeland Security, protecting terror, what does it say? Fighting terrorism since 1492. Over and over again in the city of Denver, people of color, people of low income have been moved along. I'm actually a product of that. I'm a graduate of the Auraria campus where Chicanos and minorities lived, and now it's a giant school. But we're staying on topic, and the topic is the urban camping ban and such laws that we protest. So I want to focus on this case really quickly, and it's because you all have some actions to do after this. So this is Fort Lauderdale Food Not Bombs, a organization that, as we'll see, before these judges, to Joel Flatt and Jordan Circuit judges and Steele, a district judge of the Middle District of Florida, sitting by designation. This is what they have to say. In understanding what is going on around us, context matters. Food shared with company greatly differs from a meal eaten alone. Unlike a solitary supper, a feast requires the host to entertain and the guests to interact. Lady Macbeth knew this and chided her husband for not giving the cheer at the banquet depicted in Shakespeare's play. As she explained, to feed we were best at home. From thence the sauce to meat is ceremony, meeting bare without it. William Shakespeare, The Tragedy of Macbeth, Act 3, Series 4, 1606. 400 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, it was recognized that eating together was written in such a tragedy that when the host of the meal failed to offer the toast, it broke the bonds of community. Now, in this case that we're looking at, and the Circuit Court of Appeals has ruled on, Fort Lauderdale Food Not Bombs is a nonprofit organization that hosts weekly events at a public park in Fort Lauderdale, sharing food at no cost with those who gather to join in the meal. Janet, you were saying that you've been part of a protest organization that has a subgroup that has been protesting a law called the urban camping ban, the sit and rest ordinances in city and county of Denver, since they were created and passed back in May of 2011? 12. May of 2012. So, folks, the correlation here directly is Food Not Bombs, nonprofit organization, Occupy Denver, and Boycott the Urban Camping Ban. Not a 501c3, but a community action organization that hosts a weekly event and has been doing so for nearly 7 years. Okay? They set up tables and a banner. Do you set up tables, Janet?
Yes, I do.
Do you have banners that show that you're protesting,
Yes.
signs depicting the issue? Okay? So we're correlating this. Do you have emblems on? Are people wearing logoed, showing that they're part of a community group?
Yes.
Those logos are hoodies that resemble the fist, the red fist with the words Occupy above and Denver below. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. And we invite passerby, primarily, but including specifically those who have no place to live and can't pay to get inside the businesses to pay for the food and the rights to use the bathrooms. Would you?
That's exactly right.
Okay. So we don't necessarily have vegan or non-vegan food, but we have freshly home-cooked food that is served on plates with silverware that are washed in people's homes. And when the city of Fort Lauderdale enacted an ordinance in 2014 that restricted food sharing, Fort Lauderdale Food Not Bombs and some of its members filed a lawsuit. 42 USC section 1983. Okay, folks, that's important because the ordinance and the related park rules violated their First Amendment rights. Now, I want to talk about park rules. The police, and let's go back to that, actually. I'm going to stay in a proper order here. Commander Sanchez, Aaron Sanchez, says, can you please be specific as to which of your constitutional rights were violated and what were the specific issues? Commander Sanchez, this is your video response. Be mindful that we are operating without a permit on the mall. The permit falls under Public Works civil ordinances of the municipality for vending on the 16th Street Pedestrian and Transit Mall. These rules were signed in 2005, nearly 15 years ago, 14 years ago. Rules and regulations for vending on the 16th Street Pedestrian Mall. Janet, do you sell anything?
Nothing.
Janet, did you know that in Fort Lauderdale, the people with Food Not Bombs sold nothing as well? I love her laugh. So they filed suit and they alleged that their First Amendment rights of free speech and free association were violated and that the rules weren't constitutionally vague. Now, folks, we're not declaring the rules unconstitutionally vague. They're very clear. Public Works has rules for vending. Okay, the definition of a permittee is used through these rules and regulations shall mean any person or organization which has been issued a permit for a vending, pushcart, kiosk, public seating area, sidewalk cafe, entertainment, special event, or a daily permit to hand out free product samples. Are people trying products?
No.
Okay. I just want to be clear about that. And a sidewalk cafe is somebody who sells food and allows you to sit down. I know an organization that has a sidewalk cafe. We're going to talk about them in a little bit. These rules is to establish procedures for issuing temporary permits for the 16th Street Mall and for all usage, vending, or mall events with the Downtown Denver Partnership. Are we with the Downtown Denver Partnership, Janet?
No, we're fighting them, actually.
Are we protesting a private lobbyist group?
That's right.
That represents a business entity that is taking on a political stance.
That's right.
That's right. Do you know who Katie Barton is? You should know who Katie Barton is. Katie Barton is the Vice President, Executive Office, and Special Projects for the Downtown Denver Partnership. And she has published this article that says, stand with us and vote no on Initiative 300. Ladies and gentlemen, the Downtown Denver Partnership collects dues and fees from local businesses to police the 16th Street Mall. As a private organization, they have the authority to permit the 16th Street Mall. We are for human rights. Why would we seek a permit from a private organization that is going to tell us no because our interests are contradictory to their personal corporate business interests? It's really an interesting thing because there's another reason that we wouldn't provide them with money. Nonprofit, for-profit marketing tours. This is what you get to pay per 10 by 10 space. Special event or sampling. Well, they'd probably say we were sampling because we're giving out food. So they'd want $200 a week. And they'd spend that money that we were giving to feed the homeless. So $200 a week. Janet, do you spend $200 a week?
No.
Could you afford?
I would love to have $200 a week to feed the homeless. Imagine the amount of food we could feed.
I think that if you had $200 a week, you could probably feed 1,000 people.
Oh, definitely.
Maybe 2,000 people.
Definitely.
Because we do things environmentally conscientiously. Mm-hmm. So we're not buying materials to throw away every week.
That's right.
Right? So we don't have those costs. We are autonomous. So we have people who go volunteer, get food rescued food. And folks, as we carry on with this, there's a phone number here. I hope you can see it. Let's zoom in just for a brief second. 303-571-8202. And an email address that we're going to find real quick. Because it pops up. K Barton, KBARTON at downtowndenver.com. That's K Barton at downtowndenver.com. We didn't want to see that anymore. So let's talk about why we're doing this. Denver Homeless Out Loud. D-Hole, most commonly, works with and for people who experience homelessness to help protect and advocate for dignity, rights, and choices for people experiencing homelessness. Janet, do you know the people who run Denver Homeless Out Loud?
Oh, yeah.
Where did you first meet?
We were all part of Occupy Denver.
Oh!
Yeah.
Now, Denver Homeless Out Loud is not Occupy Denver. No. But they came together as a community experience.
Yeah.
Therese.
Yep.
Benjamin. Mm-hmm. Who else? Ray Lyle. Ray Lyle's part of that. Mary Ann. Oh, yeah. Mary Ann's in the channel. Mary Ann's the one that sent that "you violated my constitutional rights." Yes. Commander Aaron Sanchez, commander of District 6, AARON.SANCHEZ at denvergov.org. Yes, that's right. Commander District 6, Aaron, AARON.SANCHEZ at denvergov.org. commander says, my understanding is that I was not out there and that the contact on this past Sunday, St. Patrick's Day, was professional. Their contact was intended to advise us that we didn't have a permit and that we pick up and obtain a permit prior to our next event. In fact, they chose not to enforce the permit violations because our group refused to provide identification. If there's no crime being committed, why do I have to tell you who I am? It's a serious question. But let's carry on because I have so little time. My understanding is, okay. The contact was intended to advise you of the furniture and permit ordinances, and it was also captured on your body-worn cameras. Folks, we have more power than body-worn cameras. We have the Constitution. The application is for public works for vending. And we haven't gotten that far in this order. The district court granted summary judgment in favor of the city of Fort Lauderdale at first. It held that the Fort Lauderdale Food Not Bombs outdoor food sharing was not expressive conduct protected by the First Amendment, and that the ordinance and park rules were not vague. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not unclear about the park rules of the 16th Street Mall. If you want to sell for a specific dollar amount and conduct commerce that is taxed, you must have vending permits to be on the mall. That's why businesses like the Hard Rock Cafe have fenced in cafe balconies on the public sidewalk that the Downtown Denver Partnership gets paid fees for. Not the city of Denver, the Downtown Denver Partnership. Okay? So, resolving the issues. So they said this is the case. See Fort Lauderdale Food Not Bombs versus the city of Fort Lauderdale. There's the case information. Final judgment. There's an appeal. Resolving the issue left undecided in First Vagabond's Church of God versus the city of Orlando, Florida case. We held on record that the Food Not Bombs outdoor food sharing is expressive conduct protected by the First Amendment. We therefore reverse the district court's grant of summary judgment in favor of the city. On remand, the district court will need to determine whether the ordinance and park rule violate the First Amendment and whether they were unconstitutionally vague. Food Not Bombs is affiliated with an international organization, Food Not Bombs, which engages in peaceful direct action. Janet, how did Occupy Denver start? Do you remember what organization that spread around the United States that Occupy Denver carries the name of?
Occupy Wall Street.
Yes.
Occupy Wall Street, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what happened at Occupy Wall Street? Housing, right?
Oh, definitely housing.
Right?
Yeah.
They showed up in the middle of New York City to protest the markets giving out all those bad mortgages and people's houses getting foreclosed. We ended up bailing out banks instead of sending their executives to jail like other countries do.
That's right.
Right? We gave them all money. We kept their private bank accounts protected, and the poor suffered. The actions happening in Denver, Colorado right now with the displacement of people, the unaffordability of housing is a direct consequence to the massive closures that started Occupy Wall Street, that Occupy Denver and cities across the country joined in, who had all these properties swept up by banks and then sold them off to private corporations so that they could be redeveloped as rental units to provide incomes and dividends for corporations. Homelessness is a direct result of the foundings of the protests of Occupy Wall Street. It's a correlation. And America did bail them out. But the reality is that Food Not Bombs has traditionally been a battleground over the city's attempts to reduce the visibility of homelessness. Janet, are there other places that are common to feed in Denver, the homeless?
Oh, yeah.
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 Would you say that Civic Center Park is a location?
Yes. I mean, like every day they hand out sack lunches at Civic Center Park.
Sack lunches at Civic Center Park.
Yeah.
And at Civic Center Park, the sack lunches are a lot of disposable stuff,
Oh, yes.
but it's a handout. And it's just, here's your food. There's no relationship per se. I mean, there might be some people who have relationships. Can't say none, right? But for the most part, that's where the homeless tend to hang out, right? It's a big complaint, actually, in the city. Why are all the homeless on Civic Center Park?
Next door.
And because the library offers services and does assistance, and it's a public space, public bathrooms, right? So when they issued the sit and rest ordinances, they originally said this is about panhandling on the 16th Street Mall.
That's right.
We want to hide homelessness from tourism, right?
That's right.
Isn't that a main reason why you chose the 16th Street Mall to feed people? Was because it brought the homeless into visibility?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And we want to say that very clearly for Chief Pazen, Paul Pazen, for Commander Aaron Sanchez, because we've met with both of them. I've had a meeting, as I showed you on the calendar, de-weaponizing the 16th Street Mall, it was called, with Commander Paul Pazen. Okay? Commander Aaron Sanchez has written to Mary Anna, and said, my understanding is that the contact was to advise you of the furniture and permit ordinances, and our intent was not to put people in jail, but by refusing to provide identification, you may have caused further crimes to be committed, interfering, causing a possibility of somebody going to jail. We chose not to take a chance, as we did not want to jail anybody. That's right, Commander Sanchez. You don't want to arrest anybody. We know that we've had this conversation with the chief of police. We have people who have walked by the sidewalks because they walk the city every day or on the weekends, and they've joined us in feeding the homeless. We have done outreach to tens of thousands of tourists every year. Communicating, Rusty, Ruru, it's okay. Communicating that the laws against homelessness are criminal and unconstitutional. In the city of Denver, federal courts are accepting a settlement where the city of Denver is not allowed to do homeless sweeps. These are all facts. Okay? So Commander Sanchez, you want to encourage us. He says, would encourage you to seek a permit for future events. Our intent is not to negatively impact your freedoms of speech and to assemble, but only to make sure you are permitted and following all ordinances and laws. Free speech is not a permitted activity. Anyone who chooses to participate can participate. We do not serve food as a charity, but as a communicating a message, is what Food Not Bomb says, that society can end hunger and poverty if we redirect our collective resources from military and war, and that food is a human right, not a privilege, which society has a responsibility to provide for all. Janet Madsen, does Occupy Denver and boycott the urban camping ban provide food and clothing to anybody who shows up in the community as a way to gather and engage in conversations about the law, the sit and rest ordinance, and its questions of constitutionality.
Yes. Yes.
Is this part of your protest message?
And to hear stories. They come and tell us stories about police violence, right? Against them.
Right. So we've learned about people who have lost their toes from frostbite.
Yeah.
We learn about people who get their property stolen. We have conversations with somebody who went to the corner bakery, a business that we were protesting, engaged in how they filled out all the job applications and found out that because they weren't wealthy enough to own a cell phone, they couldn't get a job.
That's right.
Right? This is the mental state that is the promotion of laws against the homelessness, right? Denver Homeless Out Loud got the Right to Survive initiative, which is leading in the polls right now. They got that because people are convinced that the way we're doing it is a crime. This is denverhomelessoutloud.org. And I want you guys to go to their website, okay? I'm almost done with this because we're at 30 minutes and I got to go. Food Not Bombs sets up tables, distributes food, and its members eat together with all of the participants. You were just saying that it gives us a chance to have conversations.
Oh, yes.
We all get a plate of food.
Yes.
We talk to one another.
That's right.
Okay? Many of whom are homeless individuals residing in downtown.
That's right.
We communicate with homeless individuals who reside in downtown Denver. Our logo, which is a fist, not holding a carrot, but a fist in the air, right? And we hand out literature at our events, don't we?
That's right.
Right? So this is the city's ordinances, provided public access, welfare, limited to professions of food and hygiene. Commander Sanchez, these ordinances that regulate social service facilities and outdoor food distribution centers were deemed unconstitutional. Your ordinances do not apply to free speech protests. Okay? We contend that these ordinances, Food Not Bombs, violate the rules of free speech and free association guaranteed by the First Amendment, which is made applicable to state and local governments through the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. They argued that the ordinance and regulations were unconstitutionally vague, okay? We're not arguing that the ordinances are unconstitutionally vague. We're very clear that the city has the right to regulate commerce, the selling of or vending of products, okay? But we have a intended and unique, particularized message. Repeal the urban camping ban. Are the letters over there? It's time to close this message, Commander Sanchez. So here we go. Because this is a 20-page document, guys, and you got to understand that there's lots and lots of court citations. You need to read this, okay? The constitutional protection for freedom of speech does not end at the spoken or written word. Texas versus Johnson. The First Amendment guarantees all people the right to engage not only in pure speech, but expressive conduct as well. Ex rel. Holloman versus Harland. Okay, as one First Amendment scholar has explained, a sharp line between words and expressive acts cannot be justified in Madisonian terms. The constitutional protection is afforded to speech and acts that qualify as signs with expressive meaning, qualify as speech within the meaning of the Constitution. Cass A. Sunstein, Democracy and the Problem of Free Speech, 181, 1993. There's a two-party inquiry as to whether it's sufficient to convey a particularized message was present. Feeding people in public where they're not wanted is expressive conduct. In surrounding the circumstances, the message would be understood by people who view it. Every week, you all watch videos of us communicating with people who understand our message. Okay? In determining whether conduct is expressive, we ask whether the reasonable person would interpret it as some sort of message and whether an observer would get the specific message. Boycott a business. Don't eat here because they support laws that criminalize people's lives, right? We can keep on going through these pages. There's 10 of 20 of them. You're going to find the Bible cited in here, folks. You're going to find the meal at Thanksgiving, the first meal that we allegedly celebrate. The record demonstrates without dispute that the treatment of the city's homeless population is an issue of concern in the community. Commander Sanchez, you know this to be true. Homeless issues, including public feedings in the city's parks and public areas, are free speech. The local discussion regarding the city's treatment of homelessness is significant. It provides background for Food Not Bomb events, and it provides background for Occupy Denver and Boycott the Urban Camping Ban events, particularly in light of the undisputed fact that many of the participants are homeless. It adds to the likelihood that the reasonable observer would understand the food sharing and the message it conveys. We're not burning flags here, but burning flags at the Republican Party, right? And its renomination of Ronald Reagan for president was a protest. And why was it a protest? Because Reagan shut down so many things that we're still dealing with today. Mental health and people who don't have the capacity to have consistent and permanent jobs are a large chunk of the homeless population that we're dealing with. So like the flag, feeding the homeless is free speech. And we're celebrating this every Sunday. We're expressing an idea through an activity. I can go on and on, Commander Sanchez. I can go on and on. Janet, it boils down to some simple facts. This was reversed. They still feed the homeless. Food Not Bombs is an organization that carries on. Right? And Boycott the Urban Camping Ban has public space online. It clearly expresses its message through continued communications, through weekly protests. And they continue to deliver letters like this. To whom it may concern. We, citizens of Denver Metro, join in solidarity to oppose public policies that harm our community. In 2012, the city of Denver urban camping ban. This ban is supported by the Downtown Denver Business Partnership. We, the citizens of Denver Metro, have successfully conducted boycotts of Snooze and AM Eatery, The Palm, the Tedder Cover Bookstore, Rock Bottom Brewery, and the Corner Bakery. We're seeking our next candidates. This letter serves as a notice. Thankfully, Occupy Denver. It's not uncommon to get a response from businesses. Here's one from the Hard Rock Denver. To the Honorable Mayor Michael B. Hancock, we are writing this letter to voice our opposition to the urban camping ban. We hope our objection to this ban will be taken under consideration by our administration when deciding future actions regarding this issue. Do you notice the date on there? It's kind of stamped over a little bit. It says March 18th, 2019. This is the letter from March 17th, 2019. Commander Sanchez, there's a reality here. This is a protest. And as a citizen who feeds the homeless as a religious act, you and your officers have banned me from participating in my own personal religious activities. It's a temporary setback, and I'm okay with it. But these people will continue to grow, will continue to multiply, will continue to show up. For 7 years, Janet Madsen has been feeding the homeless. For 7 years, Boycott the Urban Camping Ban has been feeding the community. For 7 years, 8 years, Occupy Denver has been a voice opposing the laws that criminalize human beings and the practices of corporations that promote and push for city governments to protect their rights to do so. Every Sunday, I feed the homeless. I provide education to community members. I provide food to people who are walking by on the streets because they're hungry. And we share the message that all people should be treated fairly. That food, that shelter, that bathrooms, the hierarchy of needs are human rights. This weekend, there will be 7, 8, 9-year-olds. There will be 20, 30-year-olds. There will be 50, 60, 70-year-old people on the 16th Street Mall. They're going to provide tables, food, clothing to anybody who walks up. They're going to have leaflets in their hands showing that the Constitution protects them. They're going to be educating people about the law, about the Citizens Initiative 300, to give human beings a little bit of dignity. Remember that on the 16th Street Mall, women used to be able to sleep in a rape-free setting with a bathroom that was left open 24 hours a day for their use. Today, that bathroom is roughly open from 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, unless there is a private permitted event at hundreds of dollars a day. I am making a specific call for all of you who are watching to share this video in 3 places. Make it 4. In an email. The email address I'll be giving you in a moment. It's Aaron, Aaron .Sanchez, Sanchez, at denvergov.org. Another address is paul.pazen, that's paul.pazen at denvergov.org. I ask you to share this video on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Start a Reddit chain. And I ask you to share it via phone call. The city of Denver has a wide variety of services available, from 311 to district offices to the city attorney's office. And I'm asking you to call the Denver Bar, the Colorado State Supreme Court. I'm asking you to take 10 minutes today and put a little extra effort into getting this word out. I know that some of you have been here for the 45 minutes and that you understand all of these complex pieces. We feed the homeless. The police have threatened to arrest us for it. And it's time that we stop this insanity. Thank you. My name's Brian Loma with Cut the Plastic. I'm a member of Occupy Denver, and I feed the homeless.